What is an ADU? An ADU, I'm going to call it an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, a granny flat, mother-in-law quarters. This is the definition, the proper definition. It's a place to live that has a place to sleep, a place to eat, a place to go to the bathroom. That's an ADU. I'm also going to talk to you about a junior ADU, JADU. Totally different thing. Doesn't need to have a restroom inside and has limitations around the sizes and how big they can be. So currently the ADU movement is rampant because of the lack of housing in California. So the ADU rules came about initially in 2017, and they've been changing them almost annually and shifting the rules. California statewide. So it's important that we know, one of the subsequent slides, the state law overrules everything. If the city of Laguna Niguel says, you can't put an ADU in this, in South Peak, it's a gated community, we have HOAs. Sorry HOA, sorry South Peak, the state rules. But what can be built is limited by what the state says can be built. The city can also have jurisdictional rules about what can be allowed in their particular jurisdiction, city, county, what have you, but they cannot be more restrictive than what the state says. So the state rules, it's important to know that the state is the ruler. So the state says that an ADU and a junior ADU can be built in residential zoned areas, whether it's single family or multifamily. If it's residential, even if it's a big apartment building, you can still build an ADU. And I'll get to how many can you build, how big can they be. Jurisdictions can designate areas within that residential zone that will and will not permit ADUs. But it can only be based on the adequacy of the water and sewer availability and the impact on traffic flow and public safety. No other reason can they limit it. So if your city is telling you no, or homeowners association is telling you no, the state rules all. So, and the state has a housing community development handbook on ADUs that was just most recently updated in July of 2022. It'll be up here at the very end. This is the rule. This is what is allowed. In this slide here, these are the different types of ADUs. The orangey or yellow part is the ADU part. So we can have an ADU from existing part of your property, including your garage. So if I take my house that has a detached 2-car garage and decide, well, it's nice I could park a car in there, but I could also build another house out of that little box that's on my property. There's a lot of reasons to do that. You might be able to pull in some rent income, or you may be able to house more people on your property. What about the extra parking? What do I do with the cars? Well, believe it or not, you don't need to build any more parking. In the past, if you were to convert a garage, they would require you to maybe put a carport in front of it so you had some type of covered parking. The rule's done. Interior space conversion. We're talking about taking a part of your property and turning that into an ADU that's already existing. So in this case, they put it on the second level. The garage conversion, I'm going to show you some pictures of some pretty cool garage conversions. And actually, I don't really want to get into the figures about how much does all this stuff cost, but the least costly way to put an ADU on your property is to do it with existing space. And the garage conversion is a great way to do it. Okay, so this is a detached ADU, and they've included a portion of their house. They've sectioned off a part of their house, up to 500 square feet of their house, as what's called a junior ADU. So that's within the existing home. Multifamilies, this is interesting. The multifamily rule, so any of us who have single family homes on residential zone lots, even mixed use, we're eligible to build one ADU and one junior ADU. So we can all basically turn our houses into triplexes, but there's occupancy rules around that I'll get to. When it comes to a multifamily, you're able to build one ADU, or if it's greater, 25% of the number of units that you have. So think about this: if you had a 20-unit apartment building and there was a bunch of garages down below, you could take 25% of those 20 units, or 5, and take some of the garages and make 5 additional ADUs. So you can have, on a multifamily, you can have whatever's the greater of 1 additional ADU or 25% of the total number of units. Yes?
Quick question.
The question is, I got you.
Yeah, what was the question?
Parking on the street versus
What are the
parking
parking regulations around when I convert my garage into a living area? What are the parking? You do not have to create any off-site parking. Some jurisdictions and some will require 2 cars are able to fit on the driveway, and they can be tandem. And so, thank you for that question. And this, actually, what just fell on the ground is Laguna Niguel's and Laguna Beach's little cheat sheet on what you can do. So every city has it. Just go to your city, Huntington Beach, wherever you're at, Laguna Hills building department, and see if they have it. Junior ADU. So junior ADU, by the state guidelines, cannot exceed 500 square feet. And a junior ADU is built within your home or within an existing structure like your garage. 2-car garage, in case you don't know, I measure houses all the time. 2-car garages are typically 400 square feet, 20 by 20. My first place that I lived in when I was in college was a 1-car garage. So I lived in 200 square feet. It's doable if you don't eat or shower or you're just in college drinking beer all the time. Okay, so the limitations are, if you want to get a streamlined approval by your jurisdiction, the rules are statewide exemption. That means it's going to just go slide through. No serious oversight on it. 800 square feet for a studio or 1 bedroom, or most, and then over 1 bedroom, 1,000 square feet. So that is going to be subject to pretty limited oversight and review. It's called a ministerial review, which is just a checklist done by somebody at the building department. You have, the city or jurisdiction has 60 days to approve it. If they don't do anything within 60 days, it's considered approved.
Wow.
Nice people.
Yes.
How
So,
did they send your approval?
building department, you know, you're going to get your stuff. Yes. Okay, the question is, are there any lot size limitations? And the answer, as of the new HCD handbook for ADUs, July 2022, no. No lot size
Wait a
limitations.
minute, so you can have
But-
Alice Springs and Irvine?
There are setback requirements.
Oh,
Okay, so we'll get there. No minimum lot size developments, but setbacks still apply, all right?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. So does it have to be 800 plus if it's a junior ADU, if it's a studio?
Junior ADU, 500 square feet or lower. If you wanted to slide through with ministerial review only, 800 square feet, no jurisdiction can go higher than the state's limit, which is 800 square feet for a studio or 1 bedroom. More than 1 bedroom can go 1,000 square feet. You can build bigger than that, but you're gonna have to go through a lot of red tape to do that. If your city, jurisdiction, locality has no ordinance on this, then you can build a new detached ADU up to 1,200 square feet, and an attached can be either at least 800 square feet or half the size of the existing dwelling. So you have a 2,000 square foot house, you can build half that size of an ADU. Okay? Lot of rules and numbers and craziness, but keep in mind, I'm going to point you to the State of California Housing Community Development Handbook. It's about 40 pages long. That is what is the rule. The rule for them says, okay, well, let's do this first. Check this out. If you have an existing building, you live out in Murrieta or something, you got a big, giant acre. You have a barn on there that's 3,000 square feet, there's no limit. It's already there. You could change that barn into an ADU that's 3,000 square feet. So we're not subject to these rules. And not subject to the setbacks. The setbacks for the state requirement is 4 feet on the side, so 4 feet from the sidewalls, 4 feet from the back. So a city cannot exceed that. They cannot say you have to be 5 feet away. A city or a jurisdiction could say you could be 3 feet away. You can't exceed 4 feet. So we're looking at 4 feet, sides and backs, 16 feet high. Okay, you can also, you can expand on an ADU 150 square feet larger than what they're saying here to accommodate for ingress and egress, so coming in and out. So you could build out that porch area into living area.
By how much? 150?
150 square feet. So there's a lot that goes into it. When you take on an ADU project, you're going to hire someone to build up the plans and the architecture, and they're going to know what's allowed by the city. One of the resources I'm going to share with you is called Symbium, Symbium. Symbium, you can put an address in, and it will have like designs that were already approved by your city. A lot of prefab modular stuff. And then it will show the lot. I'll show you pictures of it. We'll show you the lot, and it will say what are the possibilities of your lot, because it knows, it'll aerial, geolocate and aerial view that. Okay, your house is sitting here at the front of the lot, and on the back there's tons of room. Right over here is some prime examples. There's some big lots right across the street, and you've got houses that are more oriented towards the front where the street is. A lot of room in the back. So, but you can't exceed these things. You've got to stay in the limits. So I talked to you about this one. If you have a big apartment building, you can build out 25%. So if you had a 100-unit apartment building, you could, in theory, build 25 additional ADUs on there. Setbacks and height. State law, again, takes precedence. We can't, the city cannot say, hey, we're going to require that you stay 15 feet. You can go as high as 16 feet. What else I got on there? The setbacks are the same. When it comes to ADUs and junior ADUs, the rules have recently changed with the new handbook. Used to be a rule for a junior ADU that it had access to the interior part of the house that it was attached to. That is no longer a requirement. But it does. Both have to have exterior access. Obviously, you got to be able to get into the place. But on a junior ADU, it used to be where you could kind of like go through the house and then go in there, which is sort of janky. But and you could share. You can still do this. You can share the bathroom facilities on a junior ADU that's made from the existing home. Parking. Here's the 5 caveats. You do not have to build additional parking if you're within a half a mile of public transit. You're in a historical or architecturally declared historic district. What is the third one? Okay, so it's part of an existing structure. You're not adding anything. You're just converting part of the existing structure into an ADU, and so you're not changing anything. You don't have to provide for additional parking. This speaks to converting the garage. Okay, if you're in a community like mine, where on-street parking permits are required, but they're not offering them to the occupant of the ADU, then you don't have to build any more parking. And when there's a car share vehicle located within, and they've redefined what car share is, but I think we're talking about, I don't think we're talking about Uber there. I think we're just talking about like those things they have at colleges where you can like go to a yard and there's a bunch of cars there that you can jump in. So those are the 5 reasons. The big one really is if you're within a half mile of what they call a transit center. Okay, state law says parking, you can't require more than 1 space per unit or bedroom. They used to, whichever is less. Okay, but as Tony had mentioned, how do we account for that? You can park them one behind the other, tandem parking outside. It doesn't have to be covered. If you take a garage or a carport and you convert that space into an ADU, you don't have to build more parking. So blow out your garage, build a house for your mom.
If you like her.
Yeah.
Put her in the garage.
Was I thinking out loud? Sorry.
Okay, this is important too. Can we even rent these things out? Yes, you can rent them out, but get your project permitted now. We're putting this on hold through the end of 2024. You do not have to occupy if you have a home and an ADU. Forget about junior ADU. We'll talk about that in a second. If you have a house with an ADU, you can rent them both out for now. It's going to change in 2025. We'll see what happens then. When it comes to a junior ADU, and you have a single family and a junior ADU, you have to live in one of them. If you have, it's on another slide. So, gated community. I have a house in a gated community. I haven't seen anybody put an ADU in there yet, but they could if they wanted to. So, we have a home in Hillcrest Estates, up the street here. It's pretty, it's nice, and I don't know if anybody's doing it, but I bet somebody will be the first one. And will the neighbors be? The question is, can the HOA prohibit an ADU?
State overrides
The
it.
answer is no. If you're in an HOA, gated, not gated, whatever, you are eligible to build an ADU. Will your neighbors hate you? Maybe. But you're allowed to do it.
Do it also.
So the 5-year amnesty for, unpermitted units. If you build one that's unpermitted, you have 5 years to make it right.
Wow.
If it's not permitted or it doesn't meet code and it's not up to standard, we're gonna give you 5 years to make that right.
What if someone sells it during that time?
What
Where'd
if
that
somebody-
responsibility go to?
So the question is, what if somebody sells the property with an illegal ADU before 5-year amnesty ends? They disclose it in the RPA, and the new owner has until that 5-year mark to make it right.
Got it.
Okay, so impact fees for ADUs. The cities are going to impose impact fees on ADUs for the increased pressure on the infrastructure of the sewer, the water, and everything else. If you keep the ADU at 749 square feet, no impact fee. If you build one that's 750 or bigger, you're going to get those impact fees. When I show you Symbiom and their pre-designed models, they have a lot of 749 square feet. So, and those can be sizable. Again, I don't want to quote numbers, but they can run into the thousands. Some of the issues with building an ADU, people are like, oh yeah, that sounds simple. We'll just pop one in the backyard, no big deal. Well, you need to run sewer and electric and everything else. Sometimes running that sewer line to the main can be a long run or a very difficult run and cause you a lot of problems and a lot of money in the construction process.
What is the impact fee? I didn't follow.
The impact fee is what the city puts on builders when they build stuff, because they're going to impact, the sewer, the infrastructure that's already in there. There's going to be more people, more traffic, so they charge you money. It comes from right over there, City Hall.
Yeah.
So you keep your studio or one bedroom, you keep your studio under 800 square feet, and you have what they call the streamlined process with the ministerial review. If they don't approve it within 60 days, like I said, it's deemed approved. This is just an objective criteria checklist. You exceed this, you're going to get into a lot of opinion and a lot of, lot more oversight on your project about whether we should approve this or not. The city's going to approve these. When we went through COVID and there was like a shortage of everything, including people working at City Hall, you saw a lot of these get approved because they didn't get to them within 60 days. So you can tell where the state's going with this. They're trying to make this as easy as possible for people to do, as long as you stay within their little constraints. Yes?
If you're allowed to do 2 stories, is it 749 each level?
No, the question is, if you build a 2-story ADU, is it 749 square feet per story or level of home? No, it's combined altogether. But you should see these plants. They're small. They're not going to make a big footprint in your yard, but they might be 749 square feet, and you've got 400 downstairs and 349 upstairs. It's small. It's the opposite of what we used to want. Huge. Okay, these are some cool pictures that I found from some builders. I think I've been to so many ADU presentations and such. Almost all of them are put on by somebody who's building ADUs or willing to help you with your process. That's not me. I'm just here to tell you all about it. I don't build them, I don't sell them, I don't endorse for or against them. So, but these are some cool jobs that have been done, before and after. They had a janky old crappy garage right here. They turned it into this, which is awesome.
That's cute.
You know, a detached garage, and we got like a studio looking place. That would probably be 400 square feet of living area because a 2-car garage is typically that size. Here's another one. Nice job. So I've heard from different presentations on ADUs that I've been to that we can do this for $99,000, or we can do this for X amount of dollars per square foot. This is the least costly way to go about it because you already kind of have a box to work within. You just have to build it out and make it up to code. I also heard an interesting one on a broker preview from a different association than OCR, and it was put out like this. So the average price per square foot of a home in this area of Orange County was $550. So if you add an 1,000 square foot ADU to your property, it's worth $550,000. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm an appraiser. We don't do price per square foot like all of you realtors do. Because if that was the case, I would take my house and double it in size and the value of my home would double, right? Wrong. Why? Because it's not all about square footage. So I can tell you this from an appraiser standpoint. If you have an ADU on your property and you spent $500,000 on it and you get an appraisal done, you will not get a $550,000 bump on top of what your home is worth. It's just not working that way. Go ahead. Time to wake up. Okay, this is another garage conversion. I just thought it was cool to see the possibilities, what can happen. Looks like maybe somebody was living in there beforehand with that ceiling fan or doing something in there, but they put a bathroom in there and really nice, you know, vinyl flooring and all that. Detached ADUs, you know, a little example of what they can look like. There's a lot of companies out there building them. Attached, we're looking at adding on like to the side. Yes, James?
Does your tax bill go up yearly?
The question is, would your tax bill go up annually?
It's gonna be reassessed.
Yes. Anytime you do any improvement to your house and you run it through these people over here at the city, because I did, you're gonna get a supplemental tax bill. So you're gonna get your normal tax bill that you would get from the county, and then they're gonna have another one saying, okay, you did this, and we deem it to be worth this much money, and you're gonna pay more taxes. So if anybody's ever done an add-on or upgrade to their home, you end up getting 2 of those notices from the county. So this would qualify for that.
Are you able to appeal that if you do? Like if it's a remodel and you're adding an ADU at the same time, can you appeal the extra tax bill? Because you have
The
to
question is,
remodel
can you appeal the extra tax on the supplemental tax bill?
if you're remodeling.
You can appeal anything, but your success rate, I don't think is going to be that great. So, but yeah, they have a process. The county does have a process. So those of us who've been around long enough to remember when prices went down, remember that? There's a system in place for you to go and submit comps to the county and say, hey, I'm being taxed that you've assessed my property too high. Fortunately, we live in California where that's pretty limited unless you bought recently. So if you bought a long time ago for $500,000 and now your house is worth 1.5, you're probably not wanting them to take a look at what your house is worth and reassess it. But it's illegal through Prop 13.
Like your remodel.
Yeah, the remodel or the add-on, you can contest it, I'm sure. So in my experience has been, those assessments are usually lower. So I would probably not ask them to take another look at it. But if you think it's high, yeah, they have a process. Attached, built onto the side of the house, not out of existing space. We're talking about building new. And it's attached. One of the walls is going to be common with the existing. And we're seeing this. We're seeing cranes going into neighborhoods. There's a plus to this, especially for the surrounding neighbors. They don't have to deal with saws and hammers for however long it takes to build one of these. But the cost, it's about the same. So whether they build it in a warehouse and bring it over to you on a truck, or they build it in your yard, the process is smooth. They drop it back there, boom, it's in there, and grandma's moving in, or not. But from what I understand, the cost difference isn't really that much. They're about the same as building on site. Okay, if you have single family and an ADU, you don't need to live there. If I had a single family, I do, and I added an ADU to the back, I don't think I would want to live there. Because yes, I would get some income from Cousin Eddie living in the backyard, but I don't want to live with him. So I would probably myself just do that. If I had my home and I built an ADU and then had a junior ADU, I would be required to live in one of those. And I've actually thought about doing this because I have a rental property. And it's like, well, I know the people in Hillcrest Estates would probably not be stoked that I'm putting an ADU behind my house. But I don't really care because I don't live there. It's rented. But what impact would that have on the home in front as far as from a rental standpoint? So I'm thinking, yeah, I could probably pull $2,500 if I drop a 749 square foot home behind my house. But what happens to that fat rent I'm collecting on the home in front? How much would it go down, and what are the trade-offs? And these things cost a fortune. I mean, by the time I get my money back, I'm gonna be like 80. So that's the one thing. They are expensive. I said I didn't really want to quote prices, but what I hear, we're talking architectural design, permitting, planning, those impact fees and such. If you want to bundle that all in, which that's what you're going to write a check for, then you get your contractor over there, you're looking at anywhere between $300 and $500 a square foot. So is it worth it? I don't know. No short-term rentals. You've got to rent them out for at least 30 days. Because this is typical in any coastal community. They're going to be able to say, no, we cannot have Airbnb in your backyard, Mark. Sorry, it's not happening. So no short-term rentals. What is the best thing about an ADU, depending on your mother-in-law or whatever? If your children or your parents or whatever need a place to live, they want to come and be close to you. We live here. A medium price home, which isn't super impressive, is $1 million. So, all right, Mom, I'll buy you a house for $1 million. Do you like Riverside? So it's cheaper to build a unit in the back of your house and do it that way, and then you've got grandma there, built-in babysitting. If the kids are just getting started, maybe they could go live in there. They can't afford to buy a house, but they could afford to buy an ADU. We'll kind of share in the burden and all that. Did you have a question?
I do. You haven't touched on location. Can an ADU be on the front half of a property?
So, can an ADU be on the front part of the house rather than the back part of the house? Yes. The state doesn't have any rules around it that I'm aware of, but I can remember reading something about 75 feet back, which kind of precludes the typical lot here, which is 60 by 100, from having it. So it's going to be hard. So I think really, honestly, I've been dealing with this for a long time. The way that I got into the ADU thing was through my energy efficiency stuff. We're talking about to realtors about all electric ADUs. The state wants to do away with all of the fuel sources and go to a single source. And so we want to go all electric. So we're teaching them about all electric ADUs. What is the benefit? Honestly, from a fiscal or a financial point of view, because they're so costly and the amount of rent that you can pull back, you know, if you got $3,000 a month, it's going to take you 100 months to get back to 300 grand. Now, maybe you have that kind of time and that money, but really I think the biggest benefit is to have family or friends or whatever housed on the property. That's the biggest benefit that I see. Multi-generational living, whether it's grandma, mom, kids, grandkids, what have you. Okay, Tony's question is, what if you make it a tax deduction by having your office on there? That's up to you and your CPA. And how do people fund these projects? You know, if grandma wants to come close, or they want to age in place, they call it, and she owns a property, it'd be real easy to just sell hers, fund the project, do it that way. But there's other stuff out there. This program from Cal HFA, they had $40,000 available in grant money to certain, you know, you got to meet the criteria, but from what I just heard last night, that's expiring. But not to say it won't come to life again. We're hearing about the Inflation Reduction Act. The Inflation Reduction Act has a lot of money out there for people that are living in underserved communities, in income qualified situations, and also for regular middle class folks. Keep an eye on that one. There's a lot of energy efficiency built into the new IRA, Inflation Reduction Act. It's come about where they say, oh, you buy an EV, if the batteries are sourced locally. If you buy solar and it's sourced local, or U.S. base, you can get a lot of money. There's going to be money out there to build these things if you want to build an energy efficient one and tie that in. So there's the Cal HEFA thing. You can pay cash, you can put it on your credit card, there's lenders out there that are focusing in on this little niche and saying, hey, build an ADU, we'll fund it. And they will actually consider the rent that the ADU is projected to bring into your qualifying. So I just taught a class to a group of appraisers from mostly California, and there was one guy in there that's a chief appraiser, and he told me he's got 4 ADUs on Catalina Island. And he keeps buying them with these programs that have 10% down, and they base the qualifications off of his rents, which are high, because Catalina will allow a short-term rental. That 30-day thing is that's jurisdiction by jurisdiction, but the whole Airbnb thing is another thing. The last point, additional value. I'm an appraiser. Do these things add value? Of course they do. How much is the question? So an appraiser has 3 different ways to consider contributory value. The market approach is looking at sales comparables. So, realtors, if you have a home here, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot home, you're going to sell it in Laguna Niguel for $1.2 million. You have another home, same exact home, but you have a 749 square foot ADU in the backyard. Please sell that one for more, a lot more, because this is how appraisers work. I have a house right here. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,300 square feet. It has a pool. Right next door, I have the same exact house, same exact everything. View, lot, size, location, everything, amenities, no pool. If those both sold at the same price, the appraiser's brain says pools are worth nothing, because our adjustments to value are made in the market. What did the market say about this house and this house that are exactly the same, and this one has a pool? Pools don't bring any more value. If you don't sell it for more, I can't appraise it for more. So how much can you get for an ADU? How do you translate that to your potential buyer? Well, we also have the cost approach. The cost approach works like this. 749 square foot ADU costs $250 grand to build, minus depreciation. On a normal house, you would say, this house is halfway depreciated. It's 40 years old. Its economic life is maybe 80 years. Even though it will last past that point, it's going to be crumbling and need work. So economic life of a house, we can depreciate. ADUs are new. There's no physical depreciation. So we add in what we call functional depreciation on the cost approach. Functional depreciation says the market doesn't recognize the full replacement cost of this amenity. Pool, solar, gold-plated doorknobs on your remodeled kitchen and that kind of stuff. So what does the market recognize? That's the big question for us. What do I see? A big part of my business is reviewing other people's appraisals. So I look at other people's appraisals. And I'm licensed in a bunch of states, in hot markets. I'm in Florida. I'm in Tennessee. We got Nashville. We got Orlando. We got Tampa. I'm in Arizona, Phoenix, blowing up. And in California. What do I see when I see an ADU? 20 grand,
my
50
God.
grand.
That's it?
Yeah, this is what we're seeing.
Wow.
These are not market-derived adjustments, in my opinion. These are mechanical, just out of thin air. Let's throw a dart at it, you know. So, as a realtor, you're going to have to explain to your clients. We've got market approach. Hopefully, we're seeing homes that have ADUs, and they're selling at a premium. How much? Cost approach, it's going to be a little out there. We have the income approach. This is how we do apartment buildings. Investors don't live in income-producing buildings. They do not care if they're located on the 110 freeway because they're not going to live there. What do they care about? How much rent does it bring in? So, how much rent does the ADU bring in? Well, this ADU is going to bring in $2,000 a month. What do I do with that as an appraiser? I go around and I look at, say it's a one-bedroom ADU. I go around and I look at what do one bedrooms rent for, figure that out. Then I look at what do one bedroom, or what's in general, what is what we call the gross rent multiplier. And that's derived by taking a sales price divided by a rent price. So we have to take rentals from the area, from the same marketing area, and say, all right, sells for $1 million, rents for $5,000. That's about right around here. So we do that math and we say the gross rent multiplier is 200. $1 million divided by 5,000 per month. Apply that to the actual or estimated or proposed rent of this ADU in your yard, $2,500. 2,500 times 200 equals 50 grand. So we should see by the income approach, if my math is right, hopefully it's not 500 grand, $50,000 on the income approach. Cost approach is going to reveal however you figure in that functional. Sales approach, that's on you guys. You got it. Hopefully when you know all of this stuff that I'm telling you about, what are the benefits, what actually can I do, how do I do it, and make it smooth, do a 749 square footer, get it approved, get it built, and yes, there's additional value. The problem is most appraisers are not putting that much thought into it when it comes to that. But from the homeowner's perspective, I think there's a tremendous value in, for myself, multi-generational living, and if I wanted to rent it. Those two aspects right there. So yeah, okay, here's a few things I want to share with you to finish up here. Symbium.com. Put the address in. This one's actually right over there. So that's the street. The property's sitting there right at the front of the street. There's a lot of room in the back. It's got the proximity to transit as the crow flies, the crow. 253 feet away from the closest bus. So yeah, we've got, sometimes you can click on there and see like permits, which is helpful. And you can also click on there and it would say, under documents you're going to see permits, but under building, it might take you or direct you to, in this case, the Laguna Niguel City Building Department, which this is what I printed out. This is what it's going to take you to if it takes you there. What can you build in Laguna Niguel? So, Symbium. So it's showing some of the different prefabs that have been okayed by the city and how it could fit in on your lot, that blue part right there. It's kind of a fun tool to mess around with, you know, and you can move that thing around, you can create your own, you can sort of drag dimensions and stuff. They've got this kind of horseshoe looking shaped one here. But look at the number, 740. That's square footage.
Yeah.
2 bedroom, 1 bath, 740 square feet, 700 square feet. They know what's going on. They're keeping it below that threshold there. This is really cool, and I kind of stumbled into this one. I don't go on social media, but apparently there's a Facebook group, and they ask a bunch of questions and stuff. But he's got a lot of great stuff on YouTube where he's explaining this stuff. One thing, he's kind of a nerdy little guy, but he's a self-described nerd, but he's got a ton of
Do
information.
you think
But
what he's saying is legit?
oh, for sure. But let me tell you this about it. Make sure you're listening to the most current stuff, because when he started doing this, when they first came out with it's okay to have an ADU, he was doing it based on those rules. So the rule book keeps changing, and this is the rule book. When I started this whole thing out, I said the state law takes precedence over everything. There was a few little minor tweaks in that where they're just sort of clarifying junior ADU and what is a transit center and what is a ride share or whatever. So this is, I think it's like 48 pages, and it's got everything in it. And that is that.